Hello. Hello, everybody. This has been like fourth time the charm, I think. I've had to restart and redo this live about four times, and I'm persevering. If it craps out on me again one more time, I'm going to have to postpone it because it's untenable. But yeah, thank you for joining me though. Anyway, again, and whenever you see this, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, depending on where you are and when you are. So I'm going to get right into it and hope and pray that the gremlins keep away and that there are no technical hiccups as I get into the disappearance of Emily Pike. Yeah, she was an Apache girl who went missing from her group home where she was placed into, not on a reservation and not with her biological family. She went missing from there, and she'd been going missing from there previously quite a few times. So yeah, we're gonna get right into it, and I'm gonna get right back to the notes that I have on it, and go through it, and just hope to God that this works out and that it doesn't crap out on me and glitch, because I should be able to go out the tab without the stream completely falling to bits, so I can get to my notes. But yeah, fingers crossed. Anyway, let's hope. Yeah, it seems like it's worked. So yeah, hopefully this works. So Emily Pike's case involves the disappearance and murder of 14-year-old San Carlos Apache girl Emily Pike. As of this present day, the case remains an active, unsolved investigation. Okay, the disappearance. Emily was last seen on the 27th of January 2025 after leaving her group home in Mesa, Arizona, through a bedroom window. Discovery. Her body was discovered, and thank God that it's working now. If anyone's in chat, watching, just say hi and let me know you're here. We've had to start this again for four times. It seems like now I don't want to jinx it. Val, if you're watching, you know all about jinxes. I don't want to jinx it, but it seems to be working. So I'm going to get right back into my notes, and I'll be watching chart in between reading it. So yeah. Thank you very much for persevering with me, everybody. You're probably very fed up with me. Oh, glad you're here, Val. Yeah, I don't want to jinx it. No, don't jinx. I'm not jinxing it. I'm not jinxing it. But yeah, I'm glad you're here, and thanks for persevering. It really means a lot, Val. Oh my God. But yeah, um, she'd gone missing, Emily, several times from her group home, and oh, hive mind. Yeah, Emily gone missing many times. Yeah, and I'm not ignoring you, Val. I'm just going to read from my notes now, and I've got to go off the tab, so I can't see chat for a bit. But I'll be reading it, and then I'll come back into chat and see what everybody's saying. So yeah, I'm not ignoring you. Hi, thanks for sticking with me as well, Christina. It's been a long ride, but it seems to be working now. We seem to have gotten to the bottom of it all. But yeah. The cause of death. The Pinell County medical examiner ruled the cause of death was homicidal. Her dismembered Yeah, it seems like I jinxed myself. How much did you hear? When did it crop out? I um I can go over what I read without having to go back to my notes. So I think that might be what's doing it. But um, Emily went missing from her group home where she'd been placed into after. I'm going to try and just do it without notes now. Because I think that might be what's doing it. Every time I go off the tab, eventually it starts to crap out on me, which it shouldn't. Uh, but yeah, I was saying that Emily went missing from not from her reservation, from her group home that she was placed in, because that she had been essayed on her reservation, and the authorities failed to deal with it properly. Uh, because I personally don't feel that the tribal authorities had the resources, or were equipped with the right training to deal with a complex SA case. And uh, I don't believe it was from a family member, but it may have been from within the tribe, from someone within the tribe, and maybe the authorities felt that to remove her from the tribe was the right thing to do, because they couldn't convict the person who'd done it, and couldn't remove them from the tribe. When, to me, that seems fishy. I don't like it at all. I think that she should never have been placed in a group home, a situation that clearly wasn't doing any good for her. The fact that she was running away from the group home so many times, and she said in the body cam of a previous incident when she'd ran away. She had a history of running away from her group home. She'd ran away, and the police on the body cam had said, like, please just send me back to my family on the reservation. I don't want to go back there. So even, the fact that she was abused on a reservation, it seems like she was a lot happier with her family than in the place that, she wasn't familiar with. And I'd assume, at a time when she'd just been essayed, like, and she's a little girl, you want your family close, you want the people who love you close and who protect you close, and you don't want to be in a unfamiliar environment, that you have no familiarity with, and you're already having probably trust issues as is, and throw in a bunch of people that you don't know and you're not familiar with. It's just a recipe for disaster, and it's just a really sad thing that that poor little girl, she was essayed, and the tribal authorities are so underfunded that they were unable to properly deal with it or prosecute the case. And this doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means that they're so underfunded, and that they have such a lack of funding. I think if the reservations had the status of an independent country, I think then it would the infrastructure building and the funding would be there for specialist training on matters of SA and domestic violence, which are issues that plague Native American women disproportionately more than any other demographic in America. Native American women are a lot more likely to be the victims of SA or of domestic abuse, spousal violence, partner-based violence, than any other race of women in America. And this is possibly why you've obviously got the generational trauma. You've got the people like to overlook it because of prejudice. But the root cause, I think, more than any other, is inside of these reservations. They're underfunded. They don't have the training to prosecute a lot of these cases, and or the expertise to properly, catalogue and label evidence. And she was found dismembered in trash bags off Highway 60. It's just horrific. You know what I mean? I can't imagine how her parents must feel to have her taken away from them through no fault of their own. You know, her parents weren't abusing her. It's just horrific. It's just. I'm glad you're still here, Val. It is. It's so sad, and she'd already gone missing before, and like I said earlier, before I think I got cut off, she'd fled from that group home a bunch of times, and it's very possible that she was being abused in that group home as well by some of the people running it, because you hear that kids escape abuse or get taken away from their families or their communities because they've been abused, and then they get put into these group homes, and then they get the abuse there is actually even worse than the abuse that they're being taken away from. Like, you know, the Turpin family, the Turpin's kids, you remember that case file, you know, where their parents were like abusing them, and they made them all wear the thing 1, thing 2 shirts, all wear the same clothes, and they basically lived like caged animals, and there was a lot of physical abuse and neglect around the house. They were taken away from their family, the Turpins, and they're just a horrible, wicked couple, like totally neglected their kids, put them in dog clothes and like that, but their kids were taken away from them. And then the daughter of them, the Turpin family, was essayed in when she was in a group home, when she was placed in by the state, and she said that was way worse than what her parents did to her. And of course, she's very traumatized by what her parents did, but she said they never did that. You know what I mean? She would have much preferred the neglect that her biological parents subjected her to than the essay that her foster parents subjected her to. And that is possibly the case for Emily Pike, where she was abused, and then she was put into a situation in one of these group homes where it was even worse, you know, and she just had to get away, and it was just horrific, you know. I can't, like I said, Val, I just can't, dude. Yeah, it's yeah. Did you have to start over? Yeah, I did. Like a bunch of times, and it seems like it's more than just an issue at this point. I think the title of the video, not so much the Emily Pike part, but I think the Jeffrey Epstein MK Ultra connection part is what the YouTube is not liking. I think that this was maybe a stream that was intended for Rumble, but I'm glad that you're sticking with me and are persevering, you know. And I'm just going to keep rolling on forward. I'm just going to do the best I can, and hope to the gods they don't censor me. But it's horrible. For poor Emily, that this Apache girl who was taken away from her ancestral homeland on the reservation with the people she loved. Of course, you know, she'd been through a traumatic incident there, but as I was saying, she was a little girl. She needed the people who loved her the most to help her heal from that trauma. She didn't need to be removed from her family, who didn't abuse her, by the way, and taken to a whole other you know, place that she wasn't familiar with people that she didn't know, at a time where she was still coming to terms with and accepting and confronting trauma, horrible trauma. And it was a total neglect of this girl by the authorities, and a total disregard for how she felt and how she'd feel. And yeah, I'm not sure if it was app wide, Christine, but I've been noticing it on my channel for today and yesterday. So it's an issue, but we roll on forward, we move on forward. And I'm gonna take a little glimpse at my notes, but I won't take a glimpse too long. So if it cuts me out, I'll know, and I'll be able to come back, so I won't have to restart the stream. I'll just be able to, I guess, come back, I suppose. Hopefully it'll work. Yeah, I can I can still be heard. You can still hear me, thank God. So yeah, it just takes a little bit of time at first. So I'm just going to read the rest of my notes. Oh, this is interesting. As I was reading my notes, on the 11th of September 2013, Emily, that this is the incident when there was the body cam, and Mo, who was in here in my stream that I had to get rid of, Mo, who was in here, she sent me the body cam over Alex Erickson's Discord. She basically, where did this happen? The reservation? No. Basically, she was found. Her remains, her butchered remains, were found inside a trash can off Highway 60 in Arizona. So 100 miles from actually where she went missing, which was a group home that she'd been put into off the reservation. She'd been put there by the authorities. And because she was on the reservation, basically the people dealing with her SA case couldn't get the prosecution because they were cops who were actually more used to dealing with hunters and poachers and people hunting on Native American land who aren't supposed to or who aren't paying the tax. So because they couldn't prosecute the person who essayed her, and I'm assuming that the person who essayed her was in the reservation or lived there, that they had to the authorities thought that it wasn't safe for her to still live in the reservation and thought that a group home away from her family was a better option, which I think is absolutely absurd. As I've previously said, she's a little girl. She's just been subjected to horrible trauma. The one place she needs to be the most is with the people that she knows and loves the most, her family. And I don't see why that individual couldn't have been ostracized and removed from the reservation because of what they did or what they were accused of. But you never know. These places, these small communities, tribal or not, have this, politics. You know what I mean? And it could have been someone who was powerful or prominent in the community, and they didn't want to let them go. So it could have been a situation like that. But like I said, I'm purely speculating here, spitballing. This ain't the truth, other than the details that we have related to the case. But this is a worrying trend, though. It points to, I think, that the law enforcement on the reservations need a lot better training. But the question is, where's the money going to come from? Because the federal government aren't going to put money into that. And the tribal governments are hemorrhaging money as is. And a lot of them aren't in the greatest financial positions. And I have said that I think that having the reservations be considered separate countries altogether from America and give them a level of, give them sovereignty and be recognized as a country, I guess, unify them, I suppose, maybe, and recognize them all as a country in their own right. They could maybe get their finances together and their law enforcement and legal system together in a way that reflects them rather than us, because the concepts of the way we deal with law and order and government and land and property is alien to them, and the people who were dealing with the law enforcement there oftentimes aren't Native Americans, but they do try to prioritize hiring them in these offices. But as I've been saying, the cops who are on these reservations, 90% of the stuff they deal with is people fishing and poaching on the hunting there that they shouldn't hunt, or very rarely other things, but the more serious stuff, they're not equipped with the type of training that they need to be able to investigate it and prosecute it, which is why I think we have this epidemic where there's so many missing Native American women. And as I talked about on my last live, you'll find that cartel members move on to these reservations or like get into relationships with these women who live in these reservations and then groom them and traffic them. And how tragic, what a beautiful baby. It's sick. They are not going to get money, just a casino. Exactly. A casino. And even them, the casinos that they have, you'll find that there's corruption in these tribal governments, and that people will pilfer and take from their own. Obviously, this isn't the case for all of them. There are some reservations and tribal governments that are very, very functional, but most sadly aren't. And I think that that's the case for governments in general. It's not really a mark against the Native Americans, but like I've said, it's a system that is alien to them, and that we've basically forced on them. You know, if they were allowed to develop their own systems separate to us, I think that they'd be able to resolve or deal with these issues a lot easier. Of course, we have a part to play in helping them out where we can, but when things are happening on their reservations, I do feel it's their responsibility to deal with it. But when obviously someone's been trafficked off of it, it's America's duty to assist in that investigation, because the woman is more than likely or certainly on U.S. soil, and that's trouble because she's being trafficked. But there's no proof that Emily Pike was being trafficked. But it's an example of it. But she may have been. That's the thing. She may well have been trafficked. You hear of, as I've said, these group homes where children are sent to escape abuse, and they come back. They go to it, and it's even worse than the abuse that they've been sent away from. So, and these places can be places where children are groomed, and her and another Native American girl on the 23rd of September, on the 13th of September, 2023, were found at a park. They were evading going back to the place, because you've got to ask yourself, how could, what's going on at a place where the kids would rather sleep in a park in the cold, where and it's Arizona as well, so there could be like coyotes and God knows what around the time, and and the girls as well, they're not boys. Boys obviously, not to kind of stereotype, but boys are a lot more willing, in my experience, to sleep in the outdoors, and women are, and then girls are. So yeah, what's made them want to get away from that place so badly? And there's many stories of these places being used to traffic girls and Native American women, as well as being disproportionately likely to be domestically abused. They're disproportionately likely to be sex trafficked as well, especially in a younger age. So this just lines up with the various. Emily Pike's case highlights the various social issues and societal issues that are connected to this, to missing Native women and Native girls. It's awful. Oh yes, the casinos where I lived were run by slave drivers, and they knew prostitutes would meet clients there, and they allowed it. Prostitution is illegal where the casino is. Exactly. There's corruption. Where there's money, there's corruption, and money corrupts absolutely. But unfortunately, in the world we live in, you need it to function, to live. It's a sad parallel, and it's sad that they have to offer 200 grand to even get information on this case. I may have said this in my last live before I got cut off, and I had to delete it. But they had 3 suspects early on, actually, but they had to release them all and that's basically it. There's been radio silence since then, and it's just over. It's just gone past the anniversary of when it happened, and we it isn't getting the coverage that Emily's case isn't getting the coverage that other cases are, and it's overshadowed as many cases of missing Native American girls and women are. They don't make the headlines. They don't get the special segment on court TV, and it's a shame. And Alex Erickson, who inspired me initially to start talking about missing Native American women, took up this cause because Alex Erickson likes to discuss cases that don't get the media attention, and part of that trend she was discussing missing Native American women, and the disproportionately large number of Native women that go missing, and girls, and so I'd like to thank her for that, inspiring me to tackle this difficult subject. So if anyone's still watching, let me know. The chat's gone a little quiet, but I know I'm at least still being heard, as I can see my avatar, the audio around it moving. So at least I'm still on. I know that at least. So I'm going to get into some of my notes more about the wider social issues connected to missing Native American women and girls, and how we can possibly try and raise more awareness of all this. If you'll excuse me. Yeah, I'm still with it. Thank God. uh, there's key facts and statistics you've got to understand. And I'm back. Yeah, I was having browser issues, but I'm back. I'm back now. Thankfully. Uh, and I'm back. Hopefully it works, and I can be heard. Oh God, I was muted again that time. Thanks for letting me know, Christina. It was a false alarm. I still can be heard, but I thanks everybody for bearing with me. I usually don't have this level of technical issues. Hopefully it becomes a thing of the past, and if it doesn't, I may have to move to Rumble and start doing my lives there. But thank you for bearing with me. It's just crazy that the authorities have offered 200 grand, and no one's given enough information for there to be charges filed. You know, they've questioned people, they've investigated 3 people, and that's it. They haven't charged them, and it's been some time, and we're no closer to getting any answers. And despite that high reward offering, we still haven't gotten any tips. There's still not been any tips. So somebody out there knows something and isn't saying it. That's for sure. Not just the perpetrators of this, but people, you know, working with them to cover them up, to help protect them and to evade justice. So someone out there knows what happened to Emily and who did it. They're just not saying, and we can just hope that by raising awareness of her case and getting a name out there, that someone may have a change of heart and their conscience might appear, and that they give the information that's needed in order to find the sick bastard or bastards who did this to Emily. You know, I do it all the time. Yeah, great. Thanks. I'm glad you were. You're all supporting me. It means a lot. I've got a loyal bunch of viewers here. It's crazy that that amount of money has been offered and still nothing. It really is. To me, it's just the worst. I'd love to hear anyone's views on this. And you're more than welcome to join me in chat on panel. I mean, anyone wanting to, I've put the link out there, so that's there for you. Anyone that wants it. But yeah, I'm just completely baffled by just the brutality of it all, of her, of the way she was killed, and it's just so sad. And to talk, I want to talk about more of her as a person as well, because a lot in these cases, we just talk about the brutality, and they just become names and faces and statistics, and it kind of takes away from the human side of it and who she was as a person. And I think that's important to remember in all true crime cases, to understand who the victim was and what they were in life and what they valued in life. To remind yourselves that this is a person that lived. You know, this isn't just another thing to talk about, another topic. You know, like I take this very seriously, and the cases that I cover, I really do. They really are ones that I take to heart and that I do feel an attachment to in some way. So there is a degree of always a degree of emotional empathy there. But I do sadly think that a lot of people in true crime forget that, and that they see these cases as just another person, basically just another name to cover. And it's really sad. But Emily loved traditional Apache food. She loved the color pink in Hello Kitty, and it's just so sad to read this stuff about her and know that she was so innocent and so full of life, and just loved simple things, and just loved what every other little girl her age loves. And it's just horrific the way her life was ended and taken away from her. I can't imagine how anyone could think of doing that to a little girl, and how they can even live with themselves afterwards. But I think that it points to something, significantly darker than just ordinary human trafficking. Because if she was being trafficked, I think that she would have been kept alive and probably moved to another location. I think she was probably more than likely picked up by someone who pretended to be a friend, or was groomed by someone who pretended to be a friend and was offering to help her out, and maybe said that they'd take her back to her parents and take her back to a reservation, and promised her that. And obviously it had sinister intentions, and it just shows you that the world's full of sick people, frankly, and a little girl is never safe, sadly, in the world that we live in. And we'll get onto that with the next topic that we discuss. What about the group home? Who was in charge? Are they going to be held accountable? Sadly, no. It's seemingly not. Were not just Emily had ran from the place. Her friend there had ran from the place as well. And you've got to ask yourself, like, why are these girls running from this? I've said this before, but why are they running from a place that's supposed to be a refuge from the bad stuff that's happened to them? Why do they favor sleeping in a public park where there's coyotes in Arizona? There's men, there's, people on the streets, there's all kinds of dangers. Why do they feel that's safer than being where they were? Like, what's at the group home, And I think that this points to a wider issue of the lack of accountability in child services as well as these group homes. Where so many times you hear of cases where children who are put in these group homes are abused, are trafficked. And, one theory is that maybe someone connected to the group home was involved in this. She was, there's a theory right there that maybe she was being, maybe the girls at the group home were being trafficked, were being abused, and Emily wanted to get away or was threatening to talk about it, and they silenced her. That's just a theory, that's not backed up by hard evidence. But it wouldn't be the first time such things happened, and it certainly, sadly, won't be the last, because there needs to be real accountability over these places. If you're going to be entrusted with children, but not just ordinary children, vulnerable children who've been abused and exploited, you need to be cleaner than clean, and constantly scrutinized and checked up on. It should be a given, but in many cases that isn't what's happening. And you just got to say, like, bank robbers go where the money is. They go to the bank. Predators, pedophiles, go where the kids are, especially kids that have already been abused, sadly. They find them easier to abuse, and that's why a lot of these predators, go in for jobs in these group homes so that they can take advantage of their position, and knowing the lack of scrutiny that there is in these places. And Emily's case highlights many issues, and one of them is that these group homes need scrutiny. Another is that reservations police need better training to deal in child protection and deal with SA and domestic abuse and domestic situations like that. And also, there needs to be more widespread implementation of Indigenous specific alerts for areas, so that they stand out, I suppose, because disproportionately they happen more than any other group of people. And also they don't get the attention in the media that other cases do. So I think in a way to kind of balance out that is to give them their own specific alert for missing Indigenous people under 65, which they already have in Arizona. And I think it would be nice to spread that to other states with significant Native American populations. Yeah, like I'm I'm just still horrified by the sheer brutality and the sadness of this case. It feels like she was totally and utterly let down by the system for them initially not convicting the person who essayed her and for putting her in seemingly a terrible group home, away from her family, away from the people who could help her heal the most. It's heartbreaking, honestly. It really is. And I'll get to some of my last notes on this, and then I'll be moving on to Epstein and MK Ultra. So bear with me. Yeah, I've just gone through my last notes, and yeah, I'm. That's basically it. I've covered everything I wanted to in regards to Emily Pike, and there are laws that help. Give Indigenous women the Amber Alerts and the notifications that they need specifically. And it's just, I think what we can do is, I mentioned this in my last live about Native American women. We can comment on Court TV and TMZ and these other places like Law and Crime as well. Like, why don't you give Emily Pike's case a cover? Why don't you? And Scandal with Sierra Gillespie? Why don't why don't you talk about Emily Pike? Why don't you talk about other missing Native American girls and women? Because I think most of the world or most of the country doesn't know how often Native American women go missing and how disproportionately they do compared to other groups of women. I think most people will be shocked by the rates that Native American women go missing, and the issues about this and surrounding these issues, surrounding this issue, isn't going to be dealt with or addressed if people don't know about it, and the media has a big part to play in which cases they cover. And sadly, they neglect cases like Emily's. I never saw Court TV do anything on Emily. I didn't. I never saw a Court TV report on her. And you just look at the comparison with I know Summer Wales is a lot younger, but look at that, the comparison between those two cases. Round the world, round the clock coverage, constant coverage, all the time. Whereas with Emily Pike and many other missing Native American girls and women, you just don't see that. You never see it in the mainstream, and like I'm baffled as to why, because it's an issue that affects everybody, and everybody should be concerned about it. These are women and girls who are the most vulnerable to kidnap and to abuse, and I think any decent person stands against the mistreatment of people, and it's important to address the most significantly affected by that. Everybody, but especially the most significantly affected by that, and look at the symptoms as to why, and how we can improve it as a world. Because I think that it's easy to just talk about bad things and bad subjects and be cynical, about this stuff. But I think in the same time, when you're exposing these issues, you've also got to ponder and consider like what can be done to make it better. You know, and that's my view. That it's easy to be miserable about the way things are because they are bad. They are bad. You know, Native American women aren't getting the coverage that they need. But the way to make it better is to raise awareness. Now we have an awareness day, especially for Native American women, missing Native American women and girls. Like I discussed on my last live, where women put on the red handprint on their faces to signify DV and women and missing and trafficked Native American women. So that's a wonderful thing, and that raises awareness of the issue, giving it its own designated day. So I'll keep talking about Emily Pike's case and other missing people in general, but I will keep this particular subject close to heart, missing Native American women and girls, because as I said, I see a lot of similarities with me and the Native American people in terms of my spiritual beliefs and what I think in terms of that. I think that my views are very European, but they're ancient European, they're pre-Christian, so I have a lot more in common with the Native Americans who follow the old ways. We are a river flowing, you know, we're heading in the same direction. So I personally connect, I think, with them and their culture, and I think that I have quite a soft spot for them. So I guess that's why I feel spurred to talk about this issue that they face. You know, not being one of them, but still talking about it. You know, I think that it's important for everybody to raise their voices and raise awareness of this, because it's an issue that obviously it disproportionately affects Native American women, but it's an issue that affects all women and all girls and all people in general. You know, it ties into what we'll be talking about now with Epstein, that it completely ties into it all, that DV abuse, anyone can be subject and victim to that, and it's an issue that we face as a world, you know, and we've got to face it together, and only when we face it together and we address these issues do we ever get to try and, you know, reduce them and resolve them. So that's what I believe. But thank you for listening to me when I was discussing Emily Pike. I'd love to hear anyone's thoughts on Emily Pike's case, any possible theories about who was behind her killing, the situations as to why, how it could have been handled differently. I'd love to hear what the chat's thinking. I know we've only got a few left because I keep on having to start and restart. But anyone who's still watching, I'd love to hear what you have to think. It'd be great to hear about Emily Pike's case. It seems like everyone's not got anything to say, so I'll move on to my Epstein MK Ultra connection live, and basically this is very deep. This is some very deep stuff. MK Ultra, for those of you who don't know, was a project that was started by the United States primarily, but was done by the UK and other. Oh yeah, I completely understand, Christine. I completely understand. But thanks for listening, and thanks for sticking with me for all these lives. It really means a lot. Yeah, I'm leaning towards that as well. I'm leaning towards that as well. that she kept running away and it was making them look bad, probably, and that, like, with the body cam and she was seen begging with the cops, maybe it was that they thought was going to bring heat on them. So very possible, very likely. They always say it's usually somebody that the victim knows already, more so than just a complete total stranger. So yeah, I think that's a very valid theory. But I'm going to change the banner now, and we're moving on to MK Ultra for the second part. And for those of you who don't know, MK Ultra was a project started in the US, but carried out throughout the Western world, throughout the world in general, really. And there are various facets of MK Ultra. People were kidnapped and drugged using drugs like LSD and sodium pentothal. Now, sodium pentothal has incorrectly been labeled as the truth drug or the truth serum, and they portray it in movies as like intelligence agencies or cops may give it to somebody in order to get a confession or the truth out of them. But that isn't what it is, and that isn't what it does. Sodium pentothal, actually, as opposed, rather than being some truth serum, is used and can be used to implement false memories into people's heads. So the government, parts of the government in MK Ultra, were kidnapping citizens from various walks of life, but a lot of them were military. And a lot of them were involved in the counterculture, in the hippie movement, and in music and in entertainment, Hollywood. These influential people, but also just ordinary people as well. People were kidnapped by the government in the 50s and in the 60s, and possibly still to this day, it possibly continues to this day, were kidnapped, drugged with LSD and sodium pentothal, and given false memories of trauma in order to control their minds. And basically, trauma-based mind control works in a very complex way. Once someone is traumatized, their initial, to a high degree, their personality can oftentimes break down or split, and it can have a divulgence. And once that initial personality that they have experiences the trauma, the false trauma that you can put into their heads, which the government put into people's heads through false memories by giving them sodium pentothal and having pictures played to them in a very suggestive state, and saying things to them, and playing audio to them as well when they were in this suggestive state, to create false memories of trauma. And once that trauma was in their minds and they believed it to be real, then their previous personalities began to break down. And once someone's personality is broken down, you can replace that with what you want it to be. So someone who is troublesome, who could have been, saying things about the government that they didn't want, they could give them false memories and then make them a very passive individual. Alternatively, they could turn someone who is very, ordinary, has, not extreme views, and turn them into a complete extreme anti-government, Unabomber type character, or Manson figure, And that's interesting you bring that up, Steve. San Francisco, Manson, LSD. Absolutely. Charles Manson is considered to be a victim of, or a product of, MK Ultra. An example of tests that they were doing to people were prisoners, and Manson was very institutionalized and spent the overwhelming majority of his life in prison. And it was when he was in prison in the 50s, and when he was in Boys Town, the reform school that they sent him to, were this trauma-based mind control, this fake memories, this drugging happened. And that's why he was taking drugs, LSD, with the family, and having these, experiences with them, because he was spurned on to do it all by the LSD. And then when people around him started killing people, then the government, who knew that he was a product of MK Ultra, pinned it all on him, when Manson was their own creation. And also Manson never forced these people to commit the murders. He simply said, if you're going to do something witchy. And I personally think that Manson was programmed by these drugs, by MK Ultra, by the institutionalism, to do what he did, to form a hippie type commune and to attack members of the establishment and prominent figures in order to scare them, and also usher in a new state of public fear, and to destroy the hippie movement as well. I think that was the plan, and that was what the government wanted, and also to use the hippie movement as a way to influence and brainwash the youth. Like people like Timothy Leary, who were saying things like drop out, and quit your job and just do drugs all the time and be a bum. You know what I mean? Like, that's like CIA sponsored MK Ultra crap. Nixon and all them acted like they were so against drugs and so against the hippies, when really they were very much for all this. This is what happens when you look behind the curtain. You realize that things that these leaders say they think and want is bollocks, and that everything happens because they want it to happen to a degree. And, very rarely does something happen that they aren't in control of, or they can't manipulate in some way. And it goes really far down the line. And the linkage to Epstein is that several of his victims claim that they were drugged and that they were subjected to false memories in order to blur who had abused them and blur locations that they'd been to fuck with their memories, so that if they were going to report it to the police, they'd be a lot less accountable. Now, people are subjected to these, I guess, psychological abuses for different reasons. Like back in the 60s, it was to control and influence people. But I guess generally it is to control and influence people always. But the reason why that person is being controlled and influenced, and the effects of the programming and what it does to them, it varies from case to case. It's something that I also don't think, like, as evident of the testimony of these women who were victims of Epstein, it's not something that I think ever stopped. And the government has released, the US government and the UK government has been tied into documents similar to this, where they've admitted that they did these things, but they've only said that this happened back in the 1960s, that they don't do it anymore. And my answer to that is bollocks. They keep doing this. They're doing it on a much larger and grander scale now than ever. And that's why it feels like we've been sleeping under a rock. That's why this whole Epstein stuff feels like such a shock and a weird shake-up of the system. It's been happening forever in our faces. But this veil's been there. This veil of brainwashing has been there. This MK Ultra style brainwashing has been there, where it's in plain sight. We can see it, but it just doesn't register in our minds. Whereas for some reason, like I said in my post when it said Andrew's been arrested, I nearly said lifted. That's an Irish slang word for arrested. That Andrew's been arrested. The veil is lifting. That for some reason now, out of all the time, their mass brainwashing of us through the media or through whatever it is failing, and it might be failing because you can't be brainwashed. They can't do this shit to you if you know it doesn't work if you know what to spot, if you know what to expect, if you know that your perception of being. This doesn't have to mean that you're being kidnapped and locked in a room and drugged like they did back in the 60s. I believe now the methods are far more utilized, and they use television, movies, music videos to get that programming out, and that it is a lot more subconscious, and they can get into your mind and subconscious in a lot more powerful way than they could previously. And personally, I think that that's very much the case, and I think that that's why most people in the world are skeptical and are basically asleep comes to like what the elites are doing, what the government's doing, what people at the top are doing because of this programming, because of this brainwashing. And once you know that everyone's being brainwashed, you can't be brainwashed anymore. So the only thing you have to lose is your chains. And, the only place where they can't control your movements, can't control your direction is your mind. They can try with all this, but you have the power to gain that freedom and to shape your own perception in life. You just want to be aware of what's being done to you and how they do it. They use symbolism in music videos, and more people are aware of that now, like with the Diddy stuff, the P. Diddy stuff, and the Jay-Z stuff, like the symbolism in these videos and what they are used for. So, yeah. What about the Nazis and meth? Was that the same thing? Well, basically, the concepts of MK Ultra were trialed during the Third Reich and by the SS. They used this type of stuff, but the meth, the stormtroopers taking meth and the SS taking meth was a different thing. They took meth in order to march for longer hours and to fight for longer without having to stop for food and rest, to scare Churchill. As I am something of a World War II buff, so I didn't know that. But they did. But you are right in having the feeling that this type of thing was started with them, and that the scientists that were able to escape with the aid of the CIA and FBI and KGB after the war utilized these type of things. The Soviets did the same, and the fact is that these psychological weapons, is what you could call them, have been around for a long time, and the know-how and how to utilize them has been around for a long time too. And it is rooted in the Second World War. This is where stuff was first developed and utilized. However, one could say that this is merely illusion magic, and that illusion magic's been going on forever, and that this is just a modern form of illusions, and that it's magic in itself, and that if you are aware of an illusion, it can't be effective, can it? So I think that it's all about information, and it's all about. Thank you very much, Amber, for sticking with us. It's and asking people to like. It's all about it, and I do ask you to like, please, because this stream's constantly been sabotaged. A lot of symbolism in Bieber's videos. Yeah, I think that Justin Bieber was very much a victim of MK Ultra, and a lot of them are, made to be something that he didn't want to be as a kid, abused, exploited, drugged up, and then left hanging out to dry. And then, like, the second if he starts talking about all this, they're going to portray him as mad and drugged out, like they did Britney Spears, like they did Aaron Carter. I know Val, if you're still listening, was a fan of Aaron Carter, and if I do a live about Aaron Carter, I'd love for you to be there for that, because that could be a live that I might do. But yeah, Justin Bieber, like Aaron Carter, like many others like him, was essentially sold by his parents into slavery to become a marketing machine, become an agenda these people could push. Get the messages of MK Ultra, of the people behind the scenes out to the kids, and do it through his music, do it through the symbolism in his videos. And I think that a lot of these artists that are targeted at kids and teens and whatever are used to sexualize them and to get them interested in sex from a younger age, because it filters into the Epstein stuff, into the predator stuff, and you see it all the time with people in kids' TV, being exposed to that type of thing. So and kids' entertainment in general. So yeah. You've got to feel bad for Justin Bieber and Britney Spears and all these other celebrities, because they're just people with talents, and they didn't know what they were getting themselves in for, and they've had a total number on their brains, and they've been left hanging out to dry, and it's horrific. But some advice for people on how to spot if they've been a victim of MK Ultra is that you might have conflicting memories. You may have several different memories of seemingly the same events. If that's the case, then there's a good chance that you've had some false memories implanted into your head, and that's very, very that's a very, very scary thought. It seems implausible, but trust me, this sodium pentothal stuff that they give you to put this stuff in there is strong as hell. It's stronger than LSD. It's stronger than DMT. It will absolutely do a number on your brain, and you will not. You'll have to do in order to remember being drugged like that, and remember being kidnapped, or remember having this all put in your head in such another way. You've got to do deep subconscious therapies type stuff. That this is something that you're not just going to be able to recall. There will be little bits that you also might have an aversion to dark rooms and headphones as well, because they tend to put headphones on you when they do this to play audio of what when they're implanting the thoughts of what they want them to be, as well as having pictures playing really fast on a screen. This is how they do it. And but like I said, nowadays, that this is what they were doing back in the 60s. Nowadays, it's a lot more subconscious. But if they were to kidnap somebody like that and do a very personalized number on them psychologically, it would be a lot quicker and a lot easier than it was in the 60s, of course. And the technology would be a lot more utilized. The methods would be a lot more well utilized, and the person would be a lot less likely to remember any of it. So it suits them that they admit this sort of thing happened. It's interesting. You can talk about this. You can say to people and point them to the documents of the government admitting that this happened, and that they did this to people. And you'll still be called crazy. It's just the gaslighting. It's the brainwashing. People don't want to face up to the difficult realities, but also it's that veil, like I tell you about, that's put there subconsciously by these people in order to be able to get away with what they're doing, in order to keep the child sacrifices going on, the child sex abuse rings going on, to keep on the division in the world, the depression, the drug abuse, the perversions, the everything, everything that makes the world a fucked up place, and keeps them in control and keeps us down and in change. That's everything combined as to why that goes on. But yeah, I'll get into some specifics about Epstein's victims. Yeah, I keep losing. Did anyone see the video of the young 21 Mexican girls? Oh my God, yes. Valier, it was you who sent me that. I remember Val sent me that. It was so scary. It's crazy that you say that, Christine, because a lot of you guys do this where you type things in chat. I was like either just thinking about in the days prior, I wanted to talk about. That was something that, with all this Epstein files, it came back into my head. That video of, like when I saw it back in the time, I believed it. But like, I think now a lot more people do. People were programmed, like I'm talking about programming, predictive programming. People were programmed to look at that and think that she was having a psychotic break. No, she wasn't. She saw that shit. You know what I mean? She saw that shit because it happens. And people wanna. It's easier for people to portray her as psychotic than face up to the reality that our leaders may be doing that. And it's not even they are. The leaders of the world are up to shit like that. So it's no wonder that they have to drug us. It's no wonder that they have to brainwash us to keep us in control. Because if this was all laid out in the open like it's being now, you think that we'd have allowed this to go on for this long? You know what I mean? You think we'd have just given our children away, so to speak, to these people? Absolutely not. And I hope that young Mexican girl is okay, and what happened to her. I'd love to hear updates. Sadly, I have pretty bad feeling about it, but yeah, Epstein had a ranch in Mexico, so you never know. You never know. He had properties in Mexico. He had properties in Arizona near the border. He had properties everywhere. It wasn't just the island. People are putting it all on the island, but Epstein had real estate everywhere. It wasn't just the island. It was at his New York home. It was at his various ranches. It was at the island. It was, the Lolita Express. It was everywhere. So, and thanks for reminding me of that, Christine. Yeah, but I'll put that. I'll share that video in my community page for people who haven't seen it. Check it out, and it's absolutely crazy. And science has a lot to answer for, because science is enabling the military in all of this. The MK Ultra and this trauma-based mind control and creating Manchurian candidates. That is another thing as well that I didn't touch on. That sometimes people are not just given these false traumas, this trauma-based mind control, this MK Ultra programming to dead agent them or to make them, ineffective, to give them false trauma, to ruin them, essentially, to ruin somebody's progress or ruin somebody's life with false memories of false trauma, to sow those doubts and that bad memories, It's also used, obviously, to destroy people's personalities and then replace them with a Manchurian candidate. So someone that can be used as an assassin, that can be that has a trigger word. Some people have heard this in movies like Jason Bourne, where someone's memory is completely wiped, and that makes them the perfect hitman or hitwoman, because someone who's got no memory has no family. They don't know their family. They don't know who the fuck they are, or where they come from. There's no stakes. They don't have a spouse. They don't have anything. They're nobody. They're nobody. They're like a clone. And they have done this. They have completely memory wiped people. And but usually they don't do that. Usually what they do is they give them a code word. So if that code word or phrase is activated, that person's personality will go into that alternative personality, that split personality that's been developed and embedded within them, that is the Manchurian candidate, that is highly suggestive and open to being directed to carry out assassinations or actions and then not remember them. Because, what better person to use as a spy or as an assassin than someone who can act and not remember it at all and has complete deniability. It's perfect. It's a perfect tool for war and for espionage. And this was used greatly during the Cold War, as you can imagine. and it's been used ever since. And there are many people who believe that the son of Sam killer was a Manchurian candidate, and that was an MK Ultra operation. And I will be doing a live about that, covering that aspect of it and the cult aspect towards the son of Sam. Absolutely, I completely agree, Amber. They said that about Mel Gibson. Like he was, a famous actor, had like hit after hit after hit, and then, then he starts breaking from programming and saying stuff that people don't want him to say, and he's talking about elites and Hollywood and abuse and rings like that, and then he, all of a sudden he has a DUI where a cop says that they heard all this stuff that he may have said, and it's not like it was ever recorded on audio or anything like that. It was just the word of a cop against his, and all he said was he was drunk and he might have said something stupid that he didn't mean. And then he was portrayed as the devil, basically. And I think that Mel Gibson was railroaded a lot more than Jeffrey Epstein or Harvey Weinstein was. And Gibson, was accused of saying some bigoted things when he was drunk. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that people don't have a right to be annoyed about that type of thing, because they do. But if you compare that with sex crimes of the elite, then it's a pretty, minor thing that you fucked up, got loaded, and said some dumb shit. You know what I mean? Not everybody said what he's alleged to have said. And if he did say those things, it's not cool to just say that shit to people, especially cops who were, by all accounts, giving him, a decent time of things, with all things considered. But, he might have been fucked up in the mind so much that they might have encouraged that in him. You know what I mean? That they may have, incited him to do it through the drugging or through whatever provocation of false memories, and or even like completely set him up, like I was saying. And he never said any of those things, and he was so drunk. When you're so drunk and so drugged out, it's easy to fill your head with stuff that you didn't do or say because you don't remember. And portray him as a bigot or whatever, and ruin his career because he was, talking about Hollywood abuses and people, being abused in Hollywood and that type of shit. But thanks, Neat, for coming back. Yeah, we've had a lot of tech issues because of the topic, I think, and but we've persevered. We've kept going, and I'm happy that I have, and I'm just glad for you and everyone, you guys watching who've been supporting, the whole time, despite all the hiccups, despite the gremlins. You have been here, supporting me, backing me in chat, and it means the world to me. 1,000 J dollars to you all, and so when I start merch, you'll all have you'll all get QR codes sent to get some discounted merch when I start the merch, because that is something that I will be working on this week, to get t-shirts and stickers designed and stuff, and hoodies, and look to opening a merch store, and that can be a way that you can support the channel and help me improve the quality of the lives and what we do here, and any money that I make from that will be put back into the lives, but I also may use some of it to donate to charities that relate to like the cases we cover. So for missing Native American women and girl charities, and missing people in general charities, and charities for exploited and abused women and children. and things like that. I think that it would be a good, and I'll obviously donate some of my money to it as well. So things like that, that I think that shows that we can give back as a true crime community. That it isn't just a thing for us to talk about. That we do try and make a difference in these cases. However small. I think that's what it's about. That's what true crime's all about. Yeah, thank you all of you for sticking with us. And it's been a pleasure. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna read some more of my notes and get into the details of what Epstein's victims said specifically about MK Ultra. So it's very interesting because we have testimony from two different women. Okay, two different women that didn't know each other are saying that they're not only victims of Jeffrey Epstein, but also of MK Ultra. So this is huge to me. This is absolutely huge. So we have Hope. We have Hope Beryl Green, who basically uh, with Epstein on Epstein's island. Um, and sorry, everyone, I seem to be getting your chats a little later than you're sending them, but I'm getting to them. So yeah, we've got one woman who claims to have been the victim of basically a family where she was trafficked and inducted into MK Ultra brainwashing. This is done as for many reasons, like I say, but for in order to maintain what is known as the New World Order and Illuminati, this has to be done, because if we weren't under illusions, if people weren't under these what could be called illusion spells, if you want to talk about it in magical terms, like I said, we'd rise up and we'd kick these people out of power, and we'd have a new system so that there aren't like untouchable people in the world, so that we're all accountable to the same laws, and that we can't buy our way out of things. We would have actually implemented that, but we don't. We have it in theory, but not in practice, and it's never been that in practice. And we all have known that, but this veil, this illusion, has been put over there. So yeah, in some cases of MK Ultra, you have situations where people are brainwashed to become sex slaves, to feed people's disgusting habits like Jeffrey Epstein, or to be used for people like Epstein or for people like Andrew and other powerful people to blackmail them. They create these sex slaves to feed their own disgusting perversions, but also for rituals, to have for ritual sacrifice, and also to essentially use as blackmail tools that they can use to offer them as honeypots for various people around the world. And intelligence agencies will use this and do this, and they do that. It's hard to believe, but you see it all in these files. The proof of this. And Epstein had ideas about creating his own essentially evil race of people, where he would is an evil race of clones of him, basically, and clone, not just clones of him, but also putting his DNA into a lot of eggs that women had had donated, and having a lot of having as many kids by surrogacy as he could possibly have, and fill a world full of basically Jeffrey Epsteins, which you can only imagine, how awful that would be, with people with all of his traits and his chemical imbalances and everything. You can only imagine. So these types of concepts that the elites are into some really out of the world shit isn't some fantasy anymore. It's reality, and all you've got to do is stir and look into these Epstein files, and it's a key to a lot of this, to MK Ultra, to human trafficking, to blackmail and exploitation, to the deep state, to it all. How shadow government and how things work behind the scenes, and how we are kept oblivious to it. And that's what I say. I said, trust your instincts and look up on symbolism. And if something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. Don't allow yourself to be labeled paranoid, because honestly, it's better to be paranoid anyway than to put yourself into a situation where you can be, you could be in danger. You know what I mean? So it's, of course, what's life without a little risk? But the type of risks you've got out there, especially when it comes to certain things, you've got to err on the side of caution, and that especially goes to, I know I have a lot of women who watch me, and most of my audience is women. That goes to you especially. Like, if you get a job offer that seems shady, says come and meet me here type of thing, and it seems off, or you're selling something online, and or you're buying something online and you've got to go to the person's house, or you're having someone over to do work or something like that, or you're going on a date from a dating app. Exercise caution, because there are traffickers everywhere, and rarely, if ever, rarely does it happen where someone's just out running and they're pulled into a van and then they're trafficked. That you're groomed first happens by someone and it's only ever really the fucking government who snatch people and throw them into fucking vans. More than not, it's somebody that and that you're groomed into trusting, essentially. So yeah, like, obviously, you can't become a hermit and not live life, but just be careful. If you're meeting someone for the first time, meet them in a public place. Just that type of thing. Because I think that a lot of people can be like, oh, it'll never happen to me. But like you'll see in these cases of all these Epstein victims, I think a lot of them thought that it would never happen to them. You've got women who are, Victoria's Secret models, women from various different backgrounds who, they probably never thought that they'd end up in a situation like that, and didn't realize they were in a situation like they were with Epstein until it was way too late. So probably years after, they probably only were able to comprehend and process exactly what had happened and what had been done to them. And that's the horror of trauma, and people don't understand, who haven't been through some kind of trauma, what that's like in terms of processing it and how it affects the brain. And once you understand this, and understand how the government and the system use trauma and create so much trauma and are beacons of trauma themselves, you're free. You become free. But then, of course, there's the feeling of, oh, everybody else is a slave around me, and what can I do? And my loved ones don't see it, and what can I do? Like, all you can really do is keep saying your truth in the way, and keep saying the world as the way you see it, and that's the best you can do. You can't lead a horse. You can lead a horse to water, you know what I mean? But that's the best you can do. But I think, honestly, with Epstein, with these files being released, more and more people are accepting the reality, the grim reality that the elites are into some dark shit, and our world events are mainly staged. And a lot of people are with me on the fact that of course, Nancy Guthrie's disappearance is horrific, and I hope that she is found alive. Although I'm losing hope as time goes on, and with the way the police have been dealing with it. But I do think that case has been pumped up by the media, and maybe even instigated in some way by somebody to divert attention away from Epstein, because I think that they're really sick of it. And Marjorie Taylor Greene said something poignant in an interview recently, and you know that we're a big fan of her on this channel, or at least I am. And she's done a good job at exposing Epstein and the Epstein files and accountability, and exposing the whole deep state. She said that she had a conversation with Trump, and where she said about how he needed to release the Epstein files, and she said, and that he said it would be very damaging for some of my friends. And then she said at that moment she knew she had to get out of politics. She knew it. The whole illusion had been broken for her at that point, that she knew it was all a fix, that Donald Trump was just a fucking puppet, and that she'd spent a good part of a decade combined campaigning for a guy who was a fucking puppet and a stooge, and exactly what she thought he was against. Exactly, Amber. Exactly. You'd have to walk away, because she knows now what they're all capable of, and she has a family. She has a daughter, and she already had a bunch of threats, and she had to walk away. I hope one day she makes a return in some way, or decides to just have a Rumble show or something, or a YouTube show like Candace Owens, who is another person that I watch a lot of, and I know you do, Amber, as well, who is right on about this type of thing. Knows all about it, and it's like I can't imagine how that feel. It just shows you that the walls are breaking down. That more and more people are seeing it for how it is. Like Nancy Mace was saying on her way out of Congress that it's way worse than you would. Than we know, that it's way worse, the unredacted parts of the Epstein files. And I think that the unredacted parts is the stuff that deals with the trauma-based mind control, the brainwashing, the drugging, the ritual sacrifice of children, and let this be known, like I'm very much a pagan. But in European paganism, we never sacrificed our kids. There's no history of Europeans sacrificing their kids. The sacrificing of children is something that is known to have happened in Babylonia and Canaanite faiths, which is in the Middle East, as well as in some Incas in the Americas as well. But the concept of sacrificing children is totally alien to European people in terms of a spiritual practice. And my type of paganism is completely against that. I would like to see us sacrifice the people who do that to kids. You know what I mean? I would like a Wicker Man style. If you ever see that movie, I'd put all the people who were doing these sacrifices of children to their false gods, I'd put them on a wicker, and I'd light a fire and I'd walk away. You know what I mean? And that's how we do it. Not that I think that that's the solution to the world as it is. I think that exposing these people, these leaders, for what they are, is the key to it. But yeah, if you can get proof that any of them have been doing that, which I think there is, and that's what's worrying everybody, then certainly I think that anyone who does that should face the death penalty. Anyone who harms a kid in any way, no matter who they are, no matter what status they have, I think should die. There's no coming back from that. There's no coming back from that. It's the most unnatural thing. Kids and animals, to me, are the most holy of beings. You know, kids have so much innocence, and so do animals. You know, and their honesty as well. They're so honest with you. They let you know exactly how they feel about you and exactly what they think. And I value that, and I love that. You know, and obviously animals don't tell you it personally, but they let you know with their emotions and with their mannerisms and how they interact with you, how they feel about you, and things like that. So I appreciate that honesty and that pureness and that closeness to nature and to not being corrupted. And that's what these sickos hate the most. They hate animals. They're always brutalizing animals and children, this is what I think should be protected and defended the most. You know, and that's what we've got to do. You know, these people are doing magic that is all about hate and about trauma, and I think the best way to counteract that is to do magic that's about love. You know what I mean? And realizing that there's the magic of magic, and the feeling of love is a stronger feeling. You can call it magic if you want, but the feeling of love is stronger than power or control or money. That feeling in and of itself is liberation from those people, because they can't feel that. They don't get the blessing of being able to feel love, of being able to feel normal emotions, because they're not normal. And I would hesitate to even call them human. These people, you know, I use the term people loosely. These monsters, you know, that they're not even human as far as I'm concerned, because they don't love. You know, like that we don't have. We have that gift to love, and it's a brilliant feeling to love and to have, you know, wholesomeness and to do things for the good, for a good, universal good, an esoteric good, as opposed to for your own benefit and your own enrichment. You know what I mean? Like these people, Epstein and all these world leaders, none of them understand any of that. They don't know what love is. They don't know that. They don't know that feeling. And that's what makes us stronger than them. And that's why we can beat them, because we have that. And it may seem petty, it may seem small, but you ask anyone, you ask some of the darkest occult magicians, I know many of them, and they'll tell you, ones, men and women who've been at this for 60 plus years, dark magic, and they'll tell you that love conquers all, and that love is the most powerful feeling or form of magical or expression, whatever, that there is, more powerful than what they have. So everybody, when they're feeling like they're losing hope, or that this is an impossible position to get ourselves out of, you're wrong. We have something that they can never have, and we have a weapon that's more powerful than all their weapons combined: love and happiness. They don't have that, and that power is transcending, and we can transcend the chains that we've been put in. We can transcend the illusions that have been put in our minds, the suggestions, the symbolism, the false memories, the trauma, whatever. We have the ability to do that. We've just got to believe in ourselves, and we've just got to not allow them to gaslight us and to kick us and to make us think negatively about ourselves. We have so many powers and so many special hidden abilities, I think, magic, whatever you want to call it, that they don't want us to unlock, because they want to have the control over perception, over the direction of society. Because if we have too many people understanding their own inner power, their own inner magic, then they can't be brainwashed. They can't be controlled by trauma. They can't be played off against each other. They transcend all that. They transcend the division. They transcend the brainwashing. They can't control us if we're all like that. And that's why whenever you get people who have these abilities, they're demonized, they're, you know, called fraudsters, they're even set up with crimes, you know what I mean? Like, and locked away, and demonized, you know, and that's the situation. Well, there's proof. I find it quite convenient that they release the Andrew pictures, but none of the elites here. They are sickos, maybe Epstein. I completely agree. You know, they're not releasing any pictures with Alan Dershowitz or Noam Chomsky or Steve Bannon or any others, you know, that are all in there. You know, it's crazy. You know, it's crazy. I think now though that that Andrew's been arrested, it will make as I will cover more of Andrew being arrested tomorrow. I'm going to do a devoted live to that, and I fucking hope that my internet stays okay. I think maybe it was just the MK Ultra mention in the title that may have caused this issue, and I think that just talking about Andrew might be okay. That being said, though, Amy Boston, who was in my other live before I had to delete that, she did a live earlier about Andrew, and it got taken down by the BBC for copyright. Flimsy, even though she was talking over the fucking shit, you know. So we'll see about that. But I will. I'm planning on doing the live about Andrew and talking about his arrest in more detail. And it was a real shock. But it's like I do think it will lead to arrests in America out of necessity more than anything, because I think that Trump's feeling the heat now. You know, there's more waves being made over in Britain than there is here. So questions are going to be asked as to why that is, and who's next, and who's going to be the fall person in America. You know, remains to be seen. Is it going to be Alan Dershowitz? Who knows? You know, who's going to be the next sacrificial lamb? Jay-Z. Jinx, yeah. I think that's a very good prediction, Amber, because that's something that, you know, 50 Cent's obviously been talking about Jay-Z and Beyonce for a long time, and their connections with that whole world, and I think that they certainly have a part in all that. The symbolism in their videos is certainly getting a certain kind of message out there and an agenda, that's for sure. And all you've got to do is watch them, and you'll get the MK Ultra agenda. And what essentially they want, the elites want from us. They want us to be drug addicted. They want us to, you know, be perverted like them. They want us to be, you know, lonely and isolated and not have friends and depressed and mentally ill and psychotic and all these kinds of things, and violent and divided. So, you know, all this stuff that we see massive epidemics of mental illness. We see massive epidemic of drug addiction. We see massive epidemic of sex crimes. It all lines up. I could see Trump throwing a Hollywood person under the bus before. Oh, absolutely. I think that his donors like Miriam Adelson would be a lot happier with him, you know, getting a Hollywood person rather than Ehud Barak, the former Israeli prime minister. You know, there's people out there that they really would not want him to deal with. And, you know, Hollywood people are disposable, because look at the way they treat them in MK Ultra. Look at Britney Spears. They're only useful when they're pushing out a message, but they're always liable and can always be sacrificed and can always be killed off for whatever reason, whether that's to distract the public from another headline, because what distracts people more than a big celebrity death? Look at when Michael Jackson died. You know, people are saying that when Jackson died, there was stuff to do with misconduct in regards to soldiers' actions in the Iraq War, and that covered that shit up right and quick. You know what I mean? No one was talking about that when he died. They were talking about Jackson, Michael Jackson, King of Pop, dead. You know what I mean? This has been theorized that they do this a lot, and I think that they do. They do kill stars. They are, and you hear about the concept of star whackers. That is a very much a real thing. If you break from the script like Mel Gibson did, they'll either try and ruin your life or kill you. And and then you can watch documentaries about this couple, this acting couple. I forget their names, but they claim to be victims of this. That they're being harassed and pursued by people to be killed, to be pushed into suicide or killed, and that's the grim reality of Hollywood, that these people are tools to push an agenda, and if they say something or step out of line, they can face, their lives being taken away from them, their lives being taken. It's a terrible thing, and I totally agree, Amber, that Trump would use a Hollywood person, and that the system would use a Hollywood person over a politician or a world leader. That's for sure. Oh yeah, you lost me for a second. I'm back. Just curious, what are the symbols? Obviously, money and things like that. But of course, things like symbolism in the sense of the agenda they want to get across. So you not just necessarily symbols as in like like a cross or a pentagram or a swastika type symbol, because these are just symbols that I'm just throwing out there. They're not really related to this exactly, but symbols in general, but like themes. So constantly like glorifying drug use, constant drug use, glorifying sexual promiscuity, multiple partners, that type of thing. That's part of the agenda. Sexualizing kids, that's the symbol of it. That's part of their agenda. These themes are the symbols themselves. It's not as clear as a symbol, like a pentagram or something like that. And the pentagram is often pro-war movies. Oh, exactly, pro-war movies, and they tend to play around the time uh, when uh, when wars are being planned. And like, look at now, Trump's talking about bombing Iran because Israel are telling him to, basically, and Israel want him and America to fight their wars for them, and Israel are obviously like linked with Epstein and linked with Weinstein, and like every other country in this whole fucking thing, they're controlled by and run by people who are very much in this and in on this, as is every country in the West, basically. A hint of the countries that aren't controlled by this agenda, this MK Ultra New World Order style agenda, are the countries that we're bombing, essentially. The countries that we're in conflict with, that we sanction, that we demonize. Obviously, they're not perfect, but they're not kidnapping the citizens and drugging them. They're not running, mass blackmail honeypot operations. It's It's crazy the world that we're living in. But yeah, pro-war movies, absolutely. And that's another thing. It's like, why have wars against people in another country who are just like you, essentially, apart from the different cultural differences and religious differences and racial differences? They're subject to their own leaders' bullshits as well, and they're being brainwashed and controlled as well. And we're all just tools and pawns in a game of the leaders. And what I think is that really the battle, if there's going to be a battle, not a physical one, but the battle of the mind and of the soul, should be that we fight internally against our supposed leaders, who have been leading us astray for so long and have been committing, such terrible crimes against the population, brainwashing us, lying to us, abusing us, all this kinds of stuff, without any kind of accountability as well. That's the battle that we should be fighting. We should be looking, before we start looking at, which we shouldn't be looking at other wars, unless a country's coming directly invading us, I think, personally. But before we start looking abroad for shit, how about we get our affairs at home sorted out first? And that goes for the whole Western world. That goes for Europe and North America. All these countries have got the same issue. The governments are absolutely rotten to the core and infiltrated by this kind of thing. That like, our governments are just puppets for this shit, and that we really don't make the decisions, and that these dark cabals of international bankers, of intelligence agency people, Freemasons, other secret society types are actually the ones making all these calls, and that we aren't making the calls at all. But I think the more and more you raise awareness of this and tell people about this, the more people will be able to break free from it mentally, and hopefully one day we'll be able to live in a world where these people aren't in control of us, where the society that we have in theory for ourselves is actually the society that we have in reality for ourselves. That's a good way of saying it. That we actually get what we think we already had, which is accountability and democracy for everybody and rights. And we don't have that. We have the illusion of that. I want that for reals. And we should all demand that for reals as well. But yeah, I was going to say that when I was muted a little earlier, but yeah, is one of my catchphrases. I was one of my commenters on the last live stream I did said, but yeah, and it's one of my catchphrases. It's one of my regular lines that I kept going in between my notes or in between the points I was going to make, and that just doesn't sound good on the replay. So I've switched to going to that as my kind of catchphrase, as my it's an identifying mark, I suppose. And it's also, I've got the, in case I don't see a good afternoon, good evening, good night whole thing, and that's from the Truman Show, which seems pretty appropriate for the world we live in, because it's a good metaphor, and it's a good way for me to explain what I'm saying to you. Like, we're all Trumans, and the government, these MK Ultra people, the world leaders, are all like the bloody creator, the director guy with the silly hats and the glasses, thinking that that they're our parents, and that they know what's best for us, when they're, the most rotten and messed up people in the world. Secret societies, etc. Jinx, yeah. Again, exactly, Amber. And it's great that I think that we can all talk like this, because I know that you have these views. Val has these views, and a lot of us are becoming more and more aware of the world around, and it's become less, stigmatized to expose this sort of thing. And I think Melly was saying on her live the other night, and she's live now, I think, as well. So everyone should go over and check out Melly's stream after this, if she's still live. Melly was talking about related to the Epstein files. It's like at this point, it seems like uh, you're the dumb one if you're not talking about this stuff, if you're not aware of this stuff. It's like something that would have seemed crazy. You'd hear, most people would hear someone talking about this 10 years ago and they just think that they were psychotic. Like people reacted to that Mexican woman talking about them eating babies and things like that. Most people in those comments probably just said, oh, she was on drugs. She was on drugs. She was having a psychotic break, etc., etc. But that excuse only holds water for so long. They can only keep saying that for so long when, like, the evidence suggests otherwise. And we're in true crime. We go where the evidence takes us, regardless of where that is. And that's what true crimers do. And you get the mainstream media and the mainstream true crime channels and creators who never go this deep. They never go this deep. They don't want to get the answers. They just want to be a safe and sensible figurehead. Those are the people that they use for court TV. Your Lauren Matthias's, your people like that who don't go deep, who don't ask probing questions, who don't make statements on society as a whole, who just keep to clickbait cases and just exploit them and pimp off them because they have no intention of trying to increase awareness or reduce these types of things. They want to increase them because they make money from this type of shit. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. That's the craziness of it all. You find that in the media they don't want to actually do their job, which should be uncovering and exposing this. Why is it that it took the victims of all this for this to come out and for them to be believed? Why wasn't the media doing their job? Why wasn't the mainstream media probing and uncovering this type of thing? Why are the mainstream media always labeling any talk of MK Ultra and trauma-based mind control as conspiracy theory and brainwashing? Why does the mainstream media gaslight us all so much about everything? It's because they're controlled, and we live in an age now where more and more people are seeing that and seeing that the alternative is alternative independent media, where people can actually be honest and do what they say they're going to do, which is real fucking journalism, which is actually following the evidence and going to where it takes you and taking no prisoners and saying it how it is, and Amber does that really well. And so do a lot of other channels that and people that come in here. I think that we're on the veil's lifted. We're on the edge of a mass awakening, and I'm just glad that the process has started. And that the kingdom, the castle is eventually crumbling down for these people, and that maybe we can see a day where we can, like I said, have the rights and the freedoms that we think we do, but really don't. So on that note, thank you everyone for sticking with me this evening. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I know we had a lot of tech issues and it was stoppy-starty. I had to restart like 4 times. So annoying. So many gremlins, but a massive thank you to everybody who stuck with me through all this. Val, Amber, Christine, Neat, everybody. It means a hell of a world to me. Hell of a lot to me. That despite all the difficulties, that you stuck around, you heard what I had to say, and you interacted in chat in such a great way. And it's nice to see that topics that were faux pas that I would have been worried would have had me labeled crazy, if I spoke about them before, having to filter myself, having to hold back. I think now with the Epstein files becoming exposed, a lot of us YouTubers, Amber, Melly, a lot of others, Amy Boston, I think I'm just speaking for me, but it feels like it's the same for you guys too, that like we're done kind of holding back, that we feel like now society's ready for this shit, you know what I mean, that they're a lot more ready for it than they were. And yeah, it's a crazy world we're living in. And join me tomorrow evening or afternoon, depending on where you are, and we'll be discussing the arrest of former Prince Andrew, and we'll get in deep on that, and hopefully have a few people come on panel. Amber, you're more than welcome to, if you have time before your live, if you've got a live planned on Friday. And yeah, you're more than welcome to come on for that, and anyone else is as well who wants to come up and discuss Andrew's arrest. And yeah, thanks so much for that, and for all of you for watching and joining me this evening. And it's been great, and keep awareness of Emily Pike's case, and if anyone knows anything, please pass on information to the relevant authorities, and please think and consider about everything that we've discussed this evening, and think about how it impacts, you know, the way you perceive the world, and just be skeptical. Don't accept, you know, any given narrative just because it's come from a particular source. Something's only true if it's true for you. You know, you've got to kind of see it and feel it for yourself. You can't be spoon-fed anything. Don't let yourself be spoon-fed anything, especially in times like this where, you know, they're on damage control right now because the walls are crumbling. So, but on that note, thanks again, everyone, and thanks so much for saying that, Christine. And I'm glad that you enjoyed it, and I hope everybody else did. And in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Thank you.